for the very nice introduction. And like I just want to say that actually my initial intention is I would like to share the knowledge about conducting research on the corpus linguistics and corpus-based analysis, something like that. As I have a chance and opportunity to supervise, the graduate students in conducting the research in the corpus-based linguistics, and then I can see, some of the consideration that we need to take it on when conducting research in this line. And we have so many, different aspects, or the several aspects that we can do in the corpus-based linguistics. And then we will talk about the research in this line of area, right? I mean, the recent research right now, what the people are interested in, and then what the researchers all around the world. Perhaps if I can cover all things in my talk today, I will show the topics and the research in this line. I think as much as possible. I mean, it's something that is very interesting, and some of the consideration that I mentioned, some of the consideration that we have to take it when we conduct the research in corpus-based analysis. Okay, that is the things that we cover today. So let me. Okay, I think everyone can see the slides. And then you can see that the topics here that I will cover is about, that's the first thing is about the general, like a general concern or general definitions of the corpus-based linguistics or the corpus-based analysis. What things that we need to concern here, and what about the corpora? What does this mean by the corpora? Some people may think that, in a nutshell, some people may think that the corpora is like the compiled papers or the compiled text that we can have a look at on in the research, but maybe not, because we have to store it digitally, and we have to store it and put it in the computer software, something like that, in order to retrieve the information later on according to our research topics or our research purposes, something. Okay, and the next one is about the corpus. The things that the corpus linguistics is related field. Why we have to talk about related field? Because right now, basic knowledge about the corpus linguistics, maybe you can think about, frequency, the frequency analysis and the importance of the occurrence of the words or the lexical, something like that. But actually it's not, because we have to do, several aspects. If you have to look at this meaning, so the corpus linguistics, for example, can be related to the field of the semantics. And if you take a look at the, how the word is used in the particular context, so the corpus-based analysis can be related to the pragmatic meanings or the pragmatic approach or something like that. Okay, that's why I have to talk about this. And like I said, we have to. I will talk about the current research on the corpus linguistics and some consideration that we need to take when conducting the study. Okay, so the first thing about the corpus linguistics, like I say, that the ideas of the word corpus itself is like, yes, we are taking a look at the large databases or the collections of the language. But some people may think that, how large of the corpus should be in a corpus-based study. And I would say, in this field, we don't have the rule of thumbs about how large or, how many words that we have to take a look at in a study, how many words that we have to do in conducting the research. But when we do a study here, maybe small corpus can be used. Yes, I mean, if you collect the data, but the data is quite small, but you can say that, small but can be manageable. Small, but you take a look at the in-depth information from the data. Small, but you carefully carefully select when you take the text and put it in the computer software, and you collect it systematically. And this text, this data can be respond or can be correspond to your research purposes. Yeah, that's fine. And again, if you just take a look at some specific features of the language, and then your data can show us, can show the reader, can show the audience about the context specific. For example, if you just if you teach a business English, and then you find out you collect the text from the business context, you collect the text from conversation in business context. You can take the text from the lecture in the business classes, for example, and that's fine in terms of context specific. So it means that right now small corpus is fine, but the idea is that yes, if it's big, it can be representative. It can be the data or the information that you can gain from the big data can give us the reliable data or the reliable information once you have to interpret the data from the corpus. Yes, that's right. But actually, we don't have any rules of thumb about how large or how small of it. It depends on your research purpose. That is about the word corpus and the word how big the notions of how big it is when you have to deal with the corpus-based analysis. Okay, that is the first thing that I would like to mention here. And the second one is about the shape and size and the mode here. Why I have to say this? Because actually we have a number of the available corpus or the corpora. For example, if I can share it here, and many people will think that it's very easy to use the available corpus. For example, here, this is my corpus too. And if we go to the English one, so yes, we have like a BNC, but the BNC itself, that we have the spoken BNCs and the written BNCs as well. So in this case, it's like we have to think about our research questions and the research purposes when we have to look at which one we can use this in our study. So if you want to take a look at the written mode, yes, we go to the spoken one. But if you want to focus on the spoken, written mode, we have to go for the written one. But if you want to, for example, create the material or the instructional materials or the exercise about the spoken one, the classes focus on the speaking skills. Yes, we can go to the spoken one as well. So that's why, the available corpus it does mean that we can use so many things, or we can use anything that can be, any, for example, that English language can be used for every purposes, but we need to be selective enough. So that's why I would say that, for the corpus linguistics or the shape and the size of the model here, yes, we need to be selective enough when we select the data or when we compile the data for the analysis later on. And again, why the corpus linguistics is very popular in terms of the conducting study right now? Yes, for sure. I think everyone here may know that because the corpus can represent about the authenticity of the language. And this is because, the corpus is like the way that we compile the data from the real, the language that happen to use the languages is used in the real communication in the specific communities. And that's why, some of the answers that we can get from, some of the answers and information that we can get from the dictionary may not answer you for the, maybe you cannot get any answers, or you cannot explain any phenomena of the language. if you just use a definition from dictionary or examples from dictionary or from your intuition, but you are going to use the data from the corpus because it can be, it can be used as a reference. It can be, you can show it as evidence for your students as well when you try to answer the questions or when you try to explain the phenomena of the language, because it's a real thing that happens in the language community. So that's why that we can say that, okay, or corpus, corpus or corpora here can be used as the language is like a representative of the real thing or the real language that the people use in the real situations or in a particular situation. So, and again, the corpus linguistics or the corpus-based analysis here is very popular now here because like I say that once we have to try to answer try to answer to the question something about the language phenomenon. So somehow even the native speaker itself, they cannot use like just only the intuition from them in order to explain it. But we use the language when we use the data in the corpus in order to show it like an evidence. And that just means that, with the frequency, with the occurrence, with the samples of the language, and with the concordance lines, I will show you later on, it can be something like your answers is more, objective rather than the subjective. So it means that, with the, I will show you later on again with the corpus analysis, yes, with the quantitative approach that can be can represent the objectivities of the persons or of the language users. And again, with the combinations of the qualitative, like if you look at the concordancing line, if you find out the functional patterns, if you find out the pragmatic patterns of the language, yes, this can be, like these two ways that can be complementary in the analysis. And that's why, corpus linguistics can help us to answer any, I'm not sure that any or every phenomenon of the language, but, as much as possible that we can show it from the corpus-based linguistics. And that's why I think that's why the studies in these lines of the language is very popular right now. So again, if you talk about the corpus, and I show you that, yes, the corpus is a large database and it depends on from the collections of the language. But like I say that this is not just, the part of data that are on your desk. But this kind of data have to be stored digitally. And it means that you have to store it and put it in the computer software so that you can retrieve the information later on. And this computer software is served you as the assistant of the language study. Why we can say, why we have to say that this is the assistant of the language study, because we have to use so many programs about, for example, like statistical devices, statistical analysis to help us, when we extract the information from these collections of text. So that's why, corpus is not just like something on the desk and then you go back and get the paper page by page, but we need, systematic collections or systematic method when we collect the data. And finally, we have to store it digitally. And the next one is about the corpus here. Yes, once we use the electronic versions of the text, right? So here again, when we interpret the data, now we cannot use just the, our intuition when we interpret the data, but we use some kind of like statistical devices or the statistical method to help us analyze. And that's why, corpus can be, you can function, you can play with the language, you can play with the text. And that's just, the meanings of the corpus here, okay? Next, I would say the corpus here, I mean, the benefits of the corpus The corpus here, like I show you, that can be something like the available corpus. Yes, and you can see that we have a numbers of the corpus or corpora right now, because many people are interested in and try to construct it and compile it and put it in online. And maybe sometimes or somehow you can use it freely, something like that. But again, the ideas of the once you can do with the once you can do the analysis with the corpus here, maybe some people think about the frequency analysis or concordance line, or even collocation. And I would say that this is very common features of the corpus-based analysis, because for example, if I have to if you can see this here, once I do the this is the first page of the interface of my corpus. So you can see that the concordance keywords word list here. This is very common, and you just click it, and then you can see if you want to take a look at which one occur or is used most, is frequently in the corpus. But I would say with the corpus you can use again a numbers of the statistical devices in order to interpret the data, right? So like I say here, sorry, back to the natures of the corpus. Like I say, yes, analysis here about the frequency and concordance and collocation become normal right now, that you can see from the corpus. And I would say that right now, at present, we don't do just only the quantitative analysis, but we try to combine, a combinations between the quantitative approach and qualitative approach in order to look at the data or the information from the corpus. So these three pages is about the normal things about the corpus linguistics, and then the something that people now look at from the corpus. So in a nutshell, first, because in the chat box I can see that someone here don't have any experience about the corpus-based analysis, and then they would like to know more about the corpus. I would say that yes, the corpus can be the answers, but not absolute answers of the phenomena of the language. But again, the corpus can be taken as a tool when you analyze the data. And the normal things that you can use and you can get from the corpus here about the frequency analysis, concordance analysis, and the collocation. But right now, you can see that we have to combine, not just only the quantitative, but we combine the quantitative and qualitative approaches when doing the corpus-based analysis. Like I mentioned, we don't, it's not, there is a rule of thumb about how big it is of the corpus, but small corpus you can play with it if you can manageable, okay? And this is a thing, like I say, the word list. So for example, if you want to take a look at here, about the word list here, for example, if you take a look at the BNC corpus and you just click it, which one is which one is occurs in the corpus, in the BNC corpus here, right? So the ideas of the word list can be something like, which words you should teach your student, for example, which one you should like for the lesson 1 until the lesson 10. Okay, maybe you can talk about the word to be, you can talk about the word have, because the idea is that the frequency analysis, which word that is used frequently in the corpus, means that the student may need to know because it's used most in the real language, for example. And that's why, the word list become common. And then you can use these kind of things. And I think nowadays we have a lot of word list analysis and the paper or the publications in the word list analysis, especially in the specific genre, for example, like engineering, business. So we have so many nursing as well, I think. Okay, and this is again the ideas of the concordance. For example, if you want to find out, how the word take is used in the context, you can see that this is from the first page of the word take from the concordance, from the BNC concordance. And the idea is that you need to use the linguistic knowledge a bit, because you can see that for the first line, it's not just only take, but it's take away, right? And the second one is take up. Number 3 is take up. And number 4 is take part in, and the number 5 is take. So you have to play with the language a bit. Maybe, if you use your linguistic, knowledge, so you can see that, okay, not just only the concordance here, because you can see some similarities and differences between the word take in terms of the, semantic meaning, because we have like collocation or the phrase of it like take away and take up and take part in. So maybe we have to do the analysis, separately from here, from the concordancing line, right? And what about the word sketch? And this is maybe the special thing from my, my corpus from the sketch engine, because you can see that, from the functions of the word sketch here, I can see that the word sketch, for example, if you talk about the things that can go well with or collocate well with the word take, you can say that seriously take. And once this is the idea that if you, for example, if you teach your student, you can, use the adverb with the word take here. You can, present something like long take, then take, just take, only take it together, blah, blah, blah. But my, my recommendation or my suggestion is that you need to do, you need to go further, look further into the concordance before you put it in your lessons, or before you analyze. Once you have to analyze it and interpret it, you have to take a look at it, very carefully. And again, the subjects, if you look further here, the subject with the word take, maybe the word change, people take something, the government takes something. And I would say that once I browse into the word sketch here and I see, a number of subjects that can be used with the word take, depends on the genre or the text type that the BNC take when they collect the data of the BNC as well. So that's coming to the idea, of this thing, that once you have to analyze it and interpret it, you cannot just use, the whole corpus, or you just select, okay, BNC is my references corpus, or BNC is my, main corpus to do in my analysis. But you need to take a look at in the detail of the text type or the sketch of the text as well, before you go further in when look at the, in some specific patterns of the language, or, once you have to analyze or interpret the data, right? And what else? Yes, this is the idea that I say, the text types analysis, for example. Here you can see that for the BNC, it contains a lot of the, the text from the written text, not spoken one. Not the written, not the spoken demographic, blah, blah, blah. But here, this is, the details or the informations of the text type here. So, I mean, one of my, this is my experience. One of my advicees would like to see the vocab, the text coverage, the vocab coverage of the next week, for example. Okay, that is a movie and the documentary, and then they use a BNC corpus and the COCA corpus. But once but my question is that, do you know? Are you sure that the BNC corpus contains the spoken mode or the written mode? And once I click it into the text type, I can see that it's contained the written mode. Okay, so that's why I say that maybe the BNC corpus, once if you use a BNC as a reference, maybe it's not, reliable or sufficient enough to once you have to make a discussion at the end, something like that. So that's why, this is coming to the, even though it's a common natures of the corpus, but it's coming to our intuition when we have to interpret the data in the corpus-based analysis. Okay, and again, this one, this is, the common knowledge, and it's become our consideration when we have to select the data in our analysis. The first thing is about, the big data, because most of the people, my students as well, think that large collections of the data are the big one is very representative. The big one can provide more accurate data. The big one can provide a variety of data. So let's go back to my questions again. The big data can contain a lot of text type, right? If you want to say something like, okay, for example, like COCA, the BNCs and ball corpus, yes, these three corpora are contain more than 1 million words. And, in the literature, show you that, yes, this big three is very reliable in terms of, the way on the systematic when they collect the data as a corpus. But again, go back to the text type. Okay, and what about the N1010 one? And this is very new, N1010. Let me go back to to this one. For the N1010, you can see that the BNCs now is just 96 million words. But for the N1010, sorry, I will show you. Sorry, it's very sensitive. Yes, it's more than the billion words. It contains a lot of billion words. But I would say that for the collections of the included in the N1010, it's from the web blogs, and it's from the the web page. So that's why the numbers of the words here is very large. And then if you want to take a look at the words here, again, to go back to please go back to your research purposes when doing when dealing with the data, because it's like, if you want to see the present the present knowledge of the words that that we are using, or the present language that we are using, so you can use the N1010. But if you want to you want to see the formal language or the written one, you can go with the ball corpus. So it doesn't mean that you just use a big one in order to interpret the data, in order to conducting the data. But once you deal with the data, you have to think about the purpose again. And the second one's about the representativeness. This is the N1010. You can see the more than this is billion words. Okay, about the representativeness. So think about the word representativeness here. Again, maybe you have to consider the previous, when you conduct the corpus-based analysis, you have to go back to the literature and see that, how many words, what are the criteria when you select the data, when you compile the data, when you collect the data, when you use any method for the analysis. And then these things that you have to know that, your corpus is representative if you want to, to answer the whole question in your research. If you want to just, answer the questions like the business genre, so maybe, the collections of text from the BNCs may not be representative, because as you can see, the text type in the BNCs, they have the varieties of text types there. But if you collect it by yourself, or if you build your data or the corpus by yourself from the business context or from the business text, from the business textbook, maybe yes. But again, from the business textbook, the textbook is from, the intuition of the writer. It's not from the authentic text or from the authentic language. It's maybe not the representative, right? So you have to think about the representativeness criterion when you do with the data. And the next, like I said here, you can see, for example, if you want to see the, the differences and similarities of the language that used by age, by different age, for example, and you just, again, this we are dealing with the spoken mode, and we look at BNC for the spoken one, right? But the text type from the BNC, you can see that the corpus itself contain the language or the data from the people who age between the 19 and 29. That is, the large proportion, comparing to the other proportions of the different ages. So right now, maybe, the representativeness might be, problematic if you use, this BNC spoken in order to see the, the differences and similarity between, of the language between, by the different age here, for example. And the last one's about the authenticities of the text types and the genre. Like I say, that if you just take a look at the newspaper or the magazines, the language in the TV programs, something like that. So let's see here, the text type, that the text itself were collected from, from where? The resources from the text might not be representative what things that you are trying to cover or trying to investigate. For example, here, if you wanted to, for example, so the corpus here, the Cambridge Academic English, you can see that this is the academic corpus, right? And the corpus itself represents just only the people from the Kingdom, United States, China, Hong Kong, the New Zealand, Germany, France, Canada, Spain, Malaysia, and Algeria. But you can see that, most of the text or most of the data here were taken from the people in the UK. So if you want to, for example, to see, to do the comparative studies between the native speakers and non-native speakers, and you use the Cambridge Academic English corpus as a reference, maybe, again, the text types and the ways of the representativeness criteria can be problematic here. So that is, that's why we have to deal with the word corpus metadata. Maybe you have to think about the age, gender, locations, and the years of production, and the text types of the corpus as well, if you are going to use the available corpus. See what I mean? Right? That's his consideration. Now, going back to the general knowledge and the common knowledge about the corpora and corpus here. So we have like the one that we already talked about. This is what we call the generalized corpora. And this is very popular among my students and I think it's graduate student, because it's, it can be fundamental step, because you don't have to build it. You don't have to build a corpus by yourself, but you use the available corpus when you're trying to investigate the natures of the language or the features of the language. And maybe you can think about the BNC corpus and the COCA corpus as well. So that's why these corpora are very large in terms of the word and the token. But again, go back to the things that we would like to make it as, the major concern when we conducting the research. Okay, now sometimes generalized corpora is not the absolute answers for your analysis. And maybe this one, if you build it from if you build the corpus from your research purpose. So this is what we call specialized corpora. And then maybe a lot of specialized corpora maybe might not that large, but it can be small corpus. It can be small but specific corpus, something like that. So in this case, a specialized corpora we created, can be large or small, but in order to answer very specific question. For example, if you just take a look at, which words are the key terms of that the engineering student should learn, for example, and then you can build the corpus from the engineering text or the situation that engineering talk or in the classroom or the lectures in the engineering subject, something like that. That is what we call the specialized corpora. And this is very popular now. This is what we call the learner corpora. The learner corpora here, as you can see, the word learner, it's not, this corpora, this specialized corpus contain maybe both a written or spoken, or it's just a written one, like I have, or the spoken one, like I have as well. But why we have to take a look at the learner corpus, the learner language here? Because sometimes we want to see, if you want to improve our learners, for example, and we want to see, the words or the patterns of the words or the language, how our students, as an L2 student, are similar or are different from those of the L1, for example. And this can be the ideas of the contrastive analysis of interlanguage. Yes, again, the learner corpora can contain, a lot of errors, but we just, to show this is the authentic one that the learners or the actual learner produce, something like that. And this is very popular because of, I think the ideas of the year out or the global English as well. If you do like Ajahn Tama, I think she is here. She is conducting, and she has a keen sensitivity in conducting the interlanguage study. So you can use the learner corpora in order to compare with the L1 corpora or the available corpora that taken the text or the data from the L1s mostly. It's possible. Okay, so that's why we have to differentiate between the generalized one or the L1 corpora and the learner corpora. Okay, and the last one, I think the ideas have the several types of the corpora, but this one is very interesting because right now, especially for the advanced learner and the postgraduate students, I think maybe not for the high school student, because if they have to be familiar with the data or the corpus, we have to take a long time to teach them how to use. But for the postgrad students, that's fine. It's okay, and they can use some linguistic knowledge to see the differences and the similarities and the way the people use the language as well. So. The idea is that the teacher uses, some corpora or some corpora or some data from the corpora to show the students and for example, ask them to like self-editing text, self-correct that text, something like that. It can be used as a reference, and the ideas of the pedagogic corpora here, you can use this with the DDL. If you are familiar with the corpus-based analysis, DDL just means data driven. So you use the data from the corpus and ask them to analyze and to crystallize the idea what things that they can get, in terms of the language or the pattern use, something like that, from the corpus, and raise their awareness. For example, and they put it in the text when they write, and adapt the knowledge when they write that text or when they speak the language, when they speak out, something like that. That is what we call the pedagogic corpus. So it's means that teacher use corpus to teach a student. Okay, and this is a way that most of the computer textbooks can use this kind of idea, and they use the collections of the data to put it and include it in the textbook as well. And maybe it's like the scripts of the classroom interaction, or the way that students speak with students, or students speak with the teachers, or teachers speak with the teachers. So you can see in this here, again, I will show later, the corpus-based analysis can deal with, for example, like sociolinguistic perspective, okay, in terms of the language interaction. So from the things that we can take as our main considerations or our major concern when we have to deal with the corpus, this is just the idea. Once you have to deal with the corpus, if we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 words here, the word very, really, exactly, quite, okay, maybe you can see that from our intuition, maybe you can translate it with, for your students as well, and maybe you can show or present introduce some of the examples to the students, and that's maybe from your intuition or maybe from the dictionary. But again, the corpus things that can tell us something like this, yes. If we have to think about this, the word really can be used more in speaking, and quite can be used more writing. And that is, my intuition. And the word very used more frequently overall, But maybe this is very, strange when we compare our interpretation with the COCA corpus. So that's why when we have to deal with the corpus, it means that, okay, when we have to deal with the corpus, so it means that we have to use, our intuition with the frequency, and this is the idea. That is very different from, my intuition, because as I say that, the first thing that come into my mind, what really is used more in speaking and quite used more in writing. So here, this is from the corpus, the very, and the word very here is used in the spoken proportion and the written proportions. These two proportions are quite the same, like 195,000 times or 198,000 times. So my intuition is wrong, might be wrong. I would say might be wrong if I have to, say it's exactly or clearly that, okay, this one should be used in the spoken one or in the written one. But again, this is from, COCA. If we take a look at here in the spoken one and the written one, you can see that the word very can show us like very is used in the spoken one or in the spoken one, not in the written one. But if you want to write, you can use the word, can be something like quite, yes, because it's very, it's show the high frequencies of the word quite here, right? And the word exactly, so you can see exactly is used in the speaking, not in the writing one. But in this sense, we can say that, as a reference or as evidence, yes, is this thing that the corpus can tell us. And you can show this like, okay, my answer is something like this because the information from the corpus show like this, not from my intuition only, right? So that is, what is the things from the corpus. But more than this, apart from this, you have to, you can get something like from your interpretation. The word really and very is mostly used as an adverb of degree. If you use a linguistic knowledge here, because it's very frequently in the spoken one, but in the like the word, if you compare the words completely and thoroughly, the word thoroughly used more frequently in the writing than in speaking. So it depends on your intuition, and that's why coming to the ideas of the combinations of the frequency analysis and the qualitative analysis in the corpus-based study. So back to the ideas of the corpus linguistics and its later field. Like I say at the very beginnings of the talk, that nowadays we don't take a look at the corpus linguistics or the corpus-based linguistics just only in a separate field, like corpus is corpus and corpus is a quantitative analysis. But we have to do it. We can relate it with some of the linguistic fields or related fields here, like lexicographic or the lexical study. The idea of this is that if you think about, when in the productions of the dictionary right now, you can say that, the dictionary, or when linguists or the lexicographers use collect the data from the language community, they try to collect it and they try to use it as examples as well. And that's why, corpus linguistics deal with lexical studies. The way that provide you with the examples, the way that they give you the definitions, and that's why every year they include the new words in the dictionary. Every year, maybe someone have changed their meaning, or the next 2 years, these words can change its meaning, blah blah blah, because these things about the knowledge of the corpus linguistics and the lexicographic and lexical studies. Okay, so that's the ideas about the in general about the corpus linguistics and the lexical study. And then you can think about some of the corpus-based analysis in for example, like the word list. Once you have to deal with which one to choose, which one to occur most, which one should be taught to your student, and which one should be included in the instructional material, something like that. So that is again, once you collect the data, so we are dealing with the corpus linguistics, and once you have to interpret and apply the knowledge into the teaching one, in the applicable one, yes, it's about the lexical study. And next is about the grammatical study. Some people may think that the grammar is a grammar, and it may not be interesting enough to do it as a research. And I would say that maybe not. But here, for example, the ideas of like a single word. If the student learn the single words, maybe it's not enough. And then some of the people make an argument, something like, once you have to memorize or use the words, you have to think about the grammar, because you can put it in the positions of the sentence. And I would say, yes, that's right. And that's a common knowledge about the grammar. Yes, I mean the grammatical word. But again, here in the concepts of the corpus linguistics and the grammatical studies here, maybe is you can talk about the, for example, like the lexical bundles, the phraseology, the phraseological patterns, right? Why I say that the phraseological patterns are the lexical bundles? Because the idea of these things is about students shouldn't learn just only one word, but they can remember the unit of chunks, or the lexical units, or the multi-word combinations, so that they can make the sentence longer, and they can make the sentence like more complex, something more complex way, something like that. And it can help like building block for them to use it in the language, and that can represent the natural language like the native speakers, and that's the idea. And again, in terms of the corpus linguistics here, can deal with the grammatical studies, okay? Or even you can see, some words that can be used in any particular position in the sentence, in the discourse, for example. And then you are dealing with the function in terms of the grammatical functions in that way. And that kind of things, you can use the corpus linguistics knowledge to help you to investigate this kind of language phenomenon. And the next one, language variation studies. So here we are going to talk about the language variation. So think about the ways of the text type, the concepts of the text type that I showed you earlier than this. And then you can see that if the text type, were taken from different places, like in the northern parts of England, in the southern parts of England, in the Northern American, or in the southern parts of America. So you can see, how people from different places use the language similarly or differently. It depends on the locations of the maybe it depends on the locations of the language is used, or it depends on how the people, if you think about the text type, when you do the annotation, right? It might be, depends on some of the other factors like age and the educational backgrounds, blah, blah, blah. So yes, that things, once you collect the data, it can help you something like this. And the corpus linguistics can help you to see, the language variations and how this thing, corpus linguistics can deal with the language variation studies. Okay, and the next one, corpus linguistics and the contrastive and the translation studies. So it's very interesting, but I would say that it's not easy for me to do this. So for many people to do this as well. Maybe it's a cup of tea for the translation people. Because you have to deal with, for example, like two corpora. One is the original text, like from the English versions of the, for example, like novel, and the one from the translated versions of the novel, the same one. And then to try to compare, how the writer or how the translator translate, and what the strategy, rather than using the idea from the interpreters or from the researcher to show that, okay, this is the strategy that can show blah blah blah, that the writer used, that the translator used, or that the author used when they translate it into the translated version, for example. But you try to see, maybe some particular words or some of the elements, once they translate it from the original version into the translated version, but you have to, use some kind, like not just only to show about the text, but you can show the statistic or the use the quantitative analysis to, to match that. Okay, this strategy, they use this one, blah blah blah, and this statistical, result can prove that yes, this is the main strategy that this one or this writer uses when they when they translate the text, blah blah blah. And the next one is about diachronic studies. So some people might think, oh, it's very long study and it's deal with the historical studies, blah blah blah. Yes, that's right. It's deal with the historical study because you are going to. It seems to me that you have to use some time to take, to compile the text from the last, for example, like 50 years past, and you want to see, some changes, changes of the language or some changes of the word, for example, in a particular chance or in a particular text, blah blah blah. how it's used, in the past and how to use it nowadays, for example. And then you can see, somewhat, and I will show you later that how these things can deal with. And this is very interesting because, you have to deal with a big part of data, and you have to deal with a large corpus as well, in order to see not just only the quantitative one but qualitative one, how this word is changed in any situations or in a particular time, once it is used in the text or when it is used in a particular setting, for example. And this is for the examples of this thing. The first one, this is a real one. This is a real publication, but my intention is that I don't want to, just like a literature review, but I will show you that how people use the notions or the concepts of the corpus-based linguistics, dealing with anything in terms of the linguistics. Okay, like I say that the first one is about the corpus-based analysis and the corpus-based linguistics with the grammatical aspect and perhaps the semantic aspects as well. From here, you can see that we are dealing with a number of ideas about the formulaic language, and they are going to this one. The researcher tried to look at the lexical bundles. Like I say, this is recurring words and sequences, and some of you may know that lexical bundles. Lexical bundles don't occur by chance, but it occurs by we investigate by using the frequency analysis. And the idea, this is from the Dr. Bible Dr. Bible and colleagues in 1999, I think, if I can remember well. So that you can see, this is done not by clicking and see what the lexical bundles are in the text. But the ideas of this one, the idea of this study is that they want to see, L2 students, how the L2 students use the lexical bundles or use words, blah blah blah, when comparing to the native students, something like that. And again, you can see that this is once I read it, this is from the argumentative essay, and they deal with the written one. Yes, they use it. They try to compare with the they call it as the researcher calls it as a novice writer and the professional writers or the native writers, something like that. And they try to see not just only the lexical bundles, but the verb-based bundles here. What does it mean by the verb-based bundles and the stand expression bundles? So verb-based bundles is like the things as the grammatical patterns, how this verb can collocate and can be followed by, what kinds of words, something like that. And for the stance expression, if you want to investigate the stance expression, you have to know the context, how the words occur, how the words are used in the context, so that you can see, you can see how the writers express their stance, how the writer expressed the idea in the text, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I can say that, not just only about the frequency analysis, but the ideas of the qualitative analysis as well. And you can see this is a thing that I mentioned at the very beginning, that once you have to use, when you have to deal with the data in the analysis. So think about the representativeness. And here you can see from the learner corpus, the size of the corpus is something like this. And the native speaker is something like this, right? On the right-hand side, you can see. And the number of essay, so maybe you have to control the numbers of words. Once you, as a teachers and researcher at the same time, you have to control the numbers of the words in each assignment, each task, when you have to collect the data, so that you can control things in order to comparable with the native one, and you try to compare it. And then you can see that the length of essay, and this is very I mean, I think I have to show you here because of the representativeness is very okay in terms of, you know, the numbers of the tokens, the numbers of the length of the essays and the size of the corpus when you're doing this. And you can see this is the idea that we are dealing with the grammatical items or grammatical features of the text and of the language, right? And maybe it's become the idea later on in the pedagogic implication, because the one that is bold, this is in bold here, it means that, you know, for example, like on the other hand, when it comes to, if you want to blah blah blah, you can see the idea is that these bold words, these bold phrases occur both in L2 learners and in the native learners. So that's mean, yes, my students are going to be, you know, the same way as native speakers as well. If we talk, if they use something like this, and what things that we should teach them next, something like that. Okay, right? And the next one, this is, you know, this is like the recent one that I will show you about how the corpus linguistics deal with the diachronic corpus. So the ideas are here, like I say, this is like something that you are going to see the changes over time about the some of the some words. But the words that here, they use the linguistic knowledge from epistemic stance, from the ideas of highlands and from the ideas of the holidays as well. And the researcher use, you know, would like to see the how the writers use the express the stance, like the, for example, like authorial stances and the personal stances in that academic writing, in that academic publication, you know. And the data were collected from 1972 to 2017. So you can see that, you know, they use so many linguistic knowledge, and the corpus linguistics here is like a tool to see, you know, how the points of the writer use of the word that can show hedges, booster, interactional markers, blah blah blah, if you like. Okay, it's very linguistics way, but I would say that here, if you are interested in, you know, hedges, you can see that the writer here, in the past, the writer used the word often, quite, you know, not very often, not very frequently. But right now, the word often appear very frequently at the present time. Oh, what does this mean by that? They change the word, how they change the way that when they express that stance. On the word here, the word presumably, the word presumably is very used most in the past, but right now, as a writer, or maybe I can say the professional writer, professional writers don't use the word presumably frequently in their publication. So what happened? You know, our intuitions think that, you know, when we discuss something as a novice writer, okay, as a novice writer, we are very new in the fields of the publication, for example, and then you can say that, you know, once you have to discuss some of the findings, and maybe you are not sure with the things that you are discussing, is it's right or wrong, or maybe you have some, you know, it might have some possibility, or some of the argument later on, something like that. Yes, maybe you can use the word something like assumably, presumably. But why people use this one quite not frequently in the lesson publication? And the word, this is very interesting, the word indicate. Oh, when we discuss the finding in the publication, you can see, you know, the last sections of our research article, we use we can say that the researcher A indicate that, the finding indicate that, the analysis indicate that, the statistical results indicate that, yes, we use this very frequently, and I admit that I myself use this very frequently. And you can see, in 1982 to 1991, they use this very common in the this one occur very common in the publication. But why is gradually, maybe gradually increase? No, gradually decrease in the publication. But the word in terms of the which one? Estimate, you can see estimated here, estimated. In the past, we use as a writer, they use this not frequently. But why the people use this as a professional writers use this very frequently nowadays? So you can see, some changes with the from the statistical results here, or the frequency analysis here. You can see, some changes of the words that are used in the publication. And this is just, the way the people try to hedge themselves when discussing, for example, their research findings. Okay, and the next one, this is a very interesting studies again. Right now, you can see that a lot of, once I browse into the Thai journals or the TCI journals, I can see, some of the people talk about the lexical bundles, some talk about the physiological patterns, and in the past they talk about the physiological patterns as well on the lexical bundles. But right now we have a new one, phrase frame. But I would say, this one, we in the fields of the corpus linguistics, in the fields of the applied linguistics as well, we talk a lot about the word phrase frame, and phrase frame somehow quite overlapping with the structural analysis and the functional analysis. And I would say that now again, people turned that interest from the lexical bundles into the phrase frame, because the phrase frame is something like this. If you like, you can see, if you can remember here, this is the ideas of the lexical bundles, right? We include every word in the string, in the word strings here. For example, the most important thing, there are so many I'd like to, but for the phrase frame, they try to analyze just only, some of the keywords, some of the patterns here that we can use and remark it with the star. And you can put, some words in that position. And this is very interesting because in terms of the application, it's not just only, the student, the big argument here is that in terms of the acquisition, we cannot just only remember all the phrases here, but we need to apply, apply this phrase in the particular context. You can use any words, any noun to put it here. And that's the ideas of the phrase frame. And you can see that here in the engineering corpora, you can use like the temperature of the surface of the weight of the blah, blah, blah. And this is very specific one in terms of the phrase frame in the engineering corpus. Okay, and it's very interesting. The idea is very interesting because not just only they try to investigate the phrase frame, but they try to see, this one as well, structural and functional characteristics. So that's mean that we don't trust just only the frequency analysis, but we try to think about the meanings and the pragmatic meanings, how the phrase are used in the particular context, and that can be, something that you can use is in your pedagogic materials or the teaching materials, or in the real classrooms as well. once you have to create the materials, you can use this kind of idea when you extract the phrase frame from the corpus-based analysis. Okay, and this is the idea when this is from these studies as well. The idea that once we use the phrase frame in different corpora and the different subcorpora and the structural patterns that appear or occur in the corpus. Okay, and the next one, this is very interesting in terms of the comparative analysis or the contrastive analysis. So this one, they try to extract collocation. But the collocation here, this is the starting head or the starting ideas of the research is that they need to see how the writers mention themselves in their writing, and they use the ideas of interactional method discourse, because they try to argue that traditionally publications or the academic writing should be impersonal. We don't use the word I, we, us, right? Rather than that, we use the word researcher, the researcher. They don't think that the researcher try to collect blah blah blah. But I would say that this might not be accurate, because right now we can use the word I and we as well. In if you take a look at the thesis nowadays on the publications nowadays, and then they this research, they try to look at the people from two groups, Turkish students and the UK British students. Once they mentioned in the dissertation, when they mention themselves in the dissertation, and they try to see, you can see that again, this can deal with cultural difference things, and this can be the comparative studies as well. I mean, in terms of the aspect that we the perspective that once we conduct this kind of research, and you can see that the Turkish students don't prefer to mention themselves is something like our students as well, right? Or you yourself as well, because of once you mention you, like ผู้วิจัยคิดว่า as the researcher have the ideas of the researcher consider that blah blah blah, something like that. But for the UK students or for the native speaker, they try to mention themselves, or they prefer to mention themselves, because in this study, the study investigate the use of we, the use of I, the use of us, the use of our, and the use of the researcher in the corpus as well. And they can, apart from this, they try to see the collocation, which verbs, which nouns, or what the aspect that these words, I mean the personal pronouns, I, we, us, our, blah blah blah, collocate well with the what the words that can collocate well with the use of the personal nouns or the these nouns once they want to mention about them, they themselves or the researcher themselves in the academic writing. So it's very interesting, right? Okay. Next is about the corpus linguistics and the author linguistics field. We can see semantics aspect and the pragmatics aspect, stylistic sociolinguistics, and the next one's about the language pedagogy. I will go quite faster here. Again, she's Suwana, this is my supervisor, and then you can see that now you can see that they use the keyword analysis, and like I say that just within 1 hour and a half, I cannot mention all of the techniques or of the statistical method that we use in the corpus linguistics. But this is just the idea that we need to avoid, and this is the recent publication or the recent research in the corpus linguistics. They use the keywords. They try to find the keywords in in the corpus, in the two corpora, which are the close, which were taken from close disciplines. The close disciplines here is what? Humanities and social science. Yes, and we can see that, the factor, disciplinary variation can be, one of the factors that writers use words or the, lexical units differently, because they have to deal with the different fields of the study, blah, blah, blah. And the humanities and social science, science field here, to make it specific, it's from the history and the political international relation, politics and international relations. And from the keywords analysis, you can see they try to extend more in terms of the grammar, because they not just only click that, okay, the word of most or most in this subcorpora, but they try to find, the patterns, and this is still with the semantic sequences and the grammatical sequences as well. You can see the word of here can be like a property, plus of and phenomena, process part of the object, process part of and the actors. In terms of actor here, not the actor like star, but the actors here like in the semantic field. Okay, so in this case, you can see it deals with so many, we have to use not just only the frequency analysis, but we need to use our intuition and the, so much about the linguistic knowledge or linguistic aspect. Okay. Now here about the corpus linguistics and the pedagogic or the pedagogic implications of the teaching field. Yes, like I said, that we can use the, we can show the corpus through, somehow like the advanced learner to take a look at and to investigate and try to analyze what the features or what kinds of what the language that we can see from the corpus, and try to improve themselves, raise their awareness when they have to write their own draft, something like that. And here, the studies is like they have like two groups of students. One is control group, like, and the second one is like the experimental blah 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 group. And then they try to see, they ask the student to learn about it. They train the student to use the corpus, and they try to ask the student to self-correct once they made errors, But I would say that this deal with the sociolinguistics as well, because the collection here, this is not just only, the grammatical errors in general, but in the analysis, it's very interesting because of, for example, like when I read it, the word while, once the student collected, they have to they use the word extensively, because this is the academic register. So maybe most of the people think that the word while can be used interchangeably with the word extensively, but in terms of register, maybe not. And you say that yes, it's felicitous, right? So they change the word while into extensively, and it sounds, yes, very interesting here. Talk about, yes, some people may think that, when we mark the paper, some people may think that we will talk about this like informal ones, but once the student when the student try to collect themselves, they use the word cover. If they understood, the meanings of the word cover, like to initiate something, or to, cover all the issues, blah, blah, blah. So again, this is there with the academic registers as well, right? And in terms of the power speak collection, you can see, many researchers, yes, and yes, we have to use much research because this is uncountable now, right? So this can be something that, corpus can be used as a reference and as an evidence for the student to consult, right? Rather than, using just only the dictionary when they write, or they use like Google here, but they can use the data from the corpus in order to improve the qualities of their writing. Next, about the English synonyms, yes, I think most of the people and my students as well, this is that preference. I think in order to see the synonyms or the meanings from the 3 or 4 words or the groups of words that have cross meaning, they can share the meaning, something like that. Blah blah blah. And again, this very interest is some things like here they use a dictionary like a Longman dictionary of the contemporary English, right? Longman dictionary of contemporary English as a reference, and they try to see the way that this was used in the BNC corpus. And once I read this one, and I think that this might be it might be questionable enough. I mean, because right now the concept of doing a dictionary is from the definitions of the meanings of the dictionary that provide in the dictionary itself is from the notions or the ways of the data were collected in the language community. So somehow it might not be show something like this that much in terms of the meaning, but in terms of the collocations, once you have to see the concordance line and the word sketch, it can show you some interesting data. And this one, I think, is related to the word list analysis, and most of the people right now try to create the word list. But the idea now changed and shifted from the word list, because right now you can see that this is very recent publication. I mean, just only in 2021 or 2022. I'm not sure, but it's very new. They use the word list from the academic word list, but they try to change the academic word list into the academic vocabulary text, and it's very interesting because the process or the stage when they try to produce or create the text here is very systematic and very reliable, not just only pilot refined and interview the people, but you can see how the word list can help to construct the vocabulary text here, and this is very interesting. If you find it very interesting, so you can go further and read it. If you see, and they use the statistical devices here, very new statistic knowledge. And this is my publication. This is my research. Yes, I conduct the subject-specific list of the multi combination for the EAP. But I would say that this is just a case study because I take a look at the applied linguistics field. I mean, the text from the applied linguistics research articles only. But the thing is that I would say here is like I use what I call psychological judgment, because I myself will not, cannot say, I myself as a researcher cannot say that my intuition is reliable enough. So I ask the instruction, I ask the instructors to inform us or to give us some details or to eliminate or to delete somewhat before included in the list, something like that. So it's kind of like a combination between the quantitative data at first for the first thing, like the word list, and after that I use the qualitative data in order to complement the things that I have done. So that's why this list is can be useful for the pedagogical purposes as well, and maybe useful and meaningful for creating the instructional materials. Okay, and I try to not just only provide like the word list here, but I try to see the functions and the meanings of these words or these phrases as well. Okay. And this is my recent publications as well. I mean, I try to see the lexical bundles, and the lexical bundles here. This is not just listing the lexical bundles between the Thai learners, actual learners, but I try to see the limitations of the lexical bundles and using lexical bundles when comparing with the Bo corpus and the CAE corpus. So here, I will not just only compare my corpus with the one reference corpus, but I try to see differentiating because both corpus is quite, quite old, but CAE, Cambridge Academic English is quite new. So I can see, something is old-fashioned and something is very, new one, and things that we can see from the text, from the types of the patterns and the functions when I try to categorize in terms of the functions. So that is very, it's a big task, but it's very, how can I say, insightful in terms of the list of the language, okay, the list of words. And this one is about the epistemic modality. And this is just only, the, I take a look at the adjective, but actually, for the full report, I have done with the verb, the adjective, and the adverb as well. So that is very interesting in terms of the, how the writers express themselves in the academic research, something like that. Okay, so that is, I think, my session is not, can be useful to a certain extent when you do when you conduct the corpus-based analysis, because we have so many things that we need to concern once we use the data and once we interpret the data. And now you can see that, in conclusion, we not just, realize or constant about the frequency analysis, but we try to combine so many things. And this kind of knowledge, I mean, the knowledge of the corpus linguistics can be used, can be extended to the other fields of the linguistic knowledge as well. But again, once you use the other fields, once it's related to the other fields of linguistics, you have to use that kind of linguistics and use the corpus-based knowledge when you conduct and try to interpret the data as well. So some people may be right when they say that the corpus is just a tool when you retrieve the data or the information. But I would say, the corpus here is very interesting because it can show you so many aspects. It depends on your research purposes and the research question that you would like to address. Okay, so now I would go by the question here in the chat box. And the Grace, this from Grace, can you recommend a program used to analyze the data in your corpus, like ages, as you showed? Right? I prefer to use a sketch engine, but I would say that any programs or any computer programs can be, how can I say, can be used once if you use the data, and it depends on how you annotate the data first. I mean, if you collect the data and you annotate it like, okay, this group of data is from, this particular age group and that particular age group, and it's very, easy for you to research further, to search further. It depends on your research purposes as well. I mean, if you just take a look at the not the differences between the people from different ages, but if you want to take a look at this particular group of ages, so the one that you collected from this group of people can be used, accordingly, not by program. I conduct research on vocabulary teachings of A1 and A2 level student in general English class. I use a textbook which includes its word list. Yes. It's possible to use to teach students right away. Oh my God. It depends. I would say that it depends. I mean, it depends on the levels of the students. You say that they are the L1 and L2 level students, and it depends, like if the textbook show that, which one is the A1 level and which one is an A2 level. I mean, each words. So you can use it freely. But again, you can think about the ideas of creating a textbook or producing a textbook here, like as a commercial textbook. Maybe the context or the examples of the context and the examples that provide in the textbook may be not appropriate enough. So once you apply this idea, maybe you have to, you can extend your knowledge about the A1 words and A2 words. The examples here should be like something like this, and the examples here should be something like this. But my suggestion is that we will not stop something like this, just only teach them right away. But we need to ask the student to produce the language by themselves by using these words. Okay, or do we need to pick the words from the list to find word frequency again, Nicole? Oh, that's a very big thing, because once you find, once you have to investigate the COCA corpus, and you need to, it's not just stop there, but you need to identify which one is A1, which one is A2. And that means you need, another kind of software to do it, right? Okay. Can we build our own corpus? Yes. In the sketch engine, Kun Cholawat, yes, for sure, yes. And once you build the corpus, is what we call the specialized corpus, because you build it with some specific ideas or some specific purposes, right? So you can build it right away. Do we have a criteria to build one? Again, it depends on the research purposes. If you want to see the difference of the language between age, between gender, between the register, so that's kind of things can be the criteria when you create the text type. I have done a corpus on English for tourism, just my own interests. Then I don't know what to do next to build the word list. Just click it. Because how can I say? The word list here, this is from my experience. You have to think, you have to establish your research purposes at the very beginnings of your study. I mean, some people may think that, the content words is not enough, it's not useful enough, but the function words is very useful. So then, once you create the word list, you have to separate which one is the content words and which one is the function words, and how you can use the function word in the particular context. That is another story, right? So it depends. It depends. If you have to do word list, yes, and the word list here, maybe you can think about, not all the content words or not all the function words can be useful, but which one is useful most for your purpose or for your students? Yes, that's right. Is it possible that the data in corpora contain language errors? That's for sure. And this is another thing that we need to think, for examples like a learner corpora. And the ideas of this, maybe you can talk about the EIL concept or the GIL concept. If you don't take it as serious as it is, like the errors is, how can I say, in terms of the EIL or the, if it's used in the communication, you can say, and you can point out, you can mention to your student that, yes, it's a grammatical errors, but you can use this, it appear because in communication, and this is, this corpus represents as the authentic text. But once you consult, if you consult with another corpus or other resources, you can say that, okay, this kind of things, what we call the grammatical errors, but it's okay in terms of the communication. But if you use it for example, in the written text, you have to use this, and this is a grammatical one, for example. Thank you very much. อาจารย์ธรรมะขอบคุณครับ Thank you very much. Okay, I think what is the current tense of the corpus analysis in higher academic research? Oh, that's a big thing. And I think that is what I come to today in order to show that, in the Thai setting, or for the for the research conduct in the Thai setting or conduct by Thai researcher, maybe deal with something like, synonyms, collocations, grammatical patterns, blah, blah, blah. But I would like to see, I would like to show you in my presentation that you can do the corpus linguistics to deal with so many things, so many aspects. You can go back and then to see the literature that, what happened in the fields of the corpus linguistics. And you can see that we put a lot of effort to conduct, to do the corpus-based analysis. We not just, like I say, not just click and, believe or trust in just only what we call the quantitative analysis or the frequency analysis, but we try to do it further, and that's that's the fundamental ideas about what we are doing now, and we will see the development and the improvement in the lines of the corpus-based research. Okay, I think I can cover อาจารย์ Natika อาจารย์ นุ้ยค่ะ
Yes, you did, and I believe that if we have 3 hours, you can like cover
Yeah.
3 hours as well.
Yeah, because it's
right?
like I say that the things is like, I think some of the audience here, some of the participants, we have, some of the fundamental or the basic knowledge about the corpus linguistics, and that's why I show you that, this is some of the considerations of the concerns and the ideas of the things that we try, we will see, the developments in the fields of the corpus-based linguistics. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, and I got a question asking about the recording. So the recording will be posted on our YouTube channel. So as of now, you can just go to YouTube and search for Language Institute, ธรรมศาสตร์ University, and then just click subscribe and maybe the bell icon as well. And then when new videos are posted, you will get notified. And all of the webinar series sessions are posted there. I mean the previous one as well, right?
We have already distributed the in the chat box. You will find the links to the evaluation form, and if you would like to receive the certificate for attendance of this webinar, please fill in the form, and there will be an item that you can tick that you would like to receive the certificate.
All right, so before we leave today, let's take another shot of photos, shall we? So please feel free to turn on your camera, and while you are, setting up your face and just want to let you know that next week, next Saturday, we have another webinar on the topic of design-based research, which is something that is really, new to me at least. So I think will be very interesting. So again, feel free to join us next Saturday at 4 p.m. The link will be posted on Facebook and then maybe other channels as well. I think you will, get one notification for sure, but we are looking forward to seeing you again. All right, now for the photo. Okay, anyone else need ไหมคะ
Anyone would like to be in the photo?
เอาละนะคะมายิ้มค้างนะคะยิ้มค้างค่ะ 1 2 3 Okay, let's do one more time just in case นะคะสักครู่ค่ะall right 1 2 3 Okay นะคะ and that is it for todayเนาะขอบคุณมากนะคะ Thank you
very much นะคะ
Thank you very much everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you คุณทุกท่านนะครับ Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week, everyone, for the next session.
พี่มด take care.
จ้า Thank you น้องแตงมากๆจ้า Thank you น้องๆ
ไม่ต้องดื่มน้ำเลยเหรอคะไวมากไปแล้ว
ยอดมาก
So next week นี่เราก็กลับมาเจอกันเหมือนเดิมใช่ไหมคะ
Same time, same place.
Same
time, different Zoom ค่ะ
different
Zoom.
different Zoom ขอบคุณนะครับ Thank you ทุกท่านอาจารย์ทุกท่านด้วยนะครับ Thank you ครับ Thank you so much.
Don't forget to take the evaluation form นะคะ
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There are quite a lot of audience today, no?
100. We
Boys,
reached 100
look at the
today.
speaker. Popular speaker today.
จะต้องให้
มีคนถามว่า
Hello.
ฟังเพลินมีคนบอกฟังเพลินค่ะเขาแห้งเปล่า
Rising star. Okay, right. Thank you so much. ไปแล้วนะน้องๆทุก
Thank
ท่า
you
น
bye
วันนี้
ค่ะ
เข้ามา
Take care นะคะทุกคน bye Thank you everyone ขอบคุณครับ
เรารอปิดห้องกันค่ะ
อ่า
โอเคงั้นปิดเลยเนาะ
ได้